Good day again, everyone. Uh, to continue with our lecture this today, I would like to bring you along to this quick review and also a quick update on the things that we have discussed last time. Just to remind each one, module. This is module six of our material, and then the module six actually is continuation of what we have discussed in module 5. Of course, a quick treatment on information economics. This is just an introduction in terms of uh, the theoretical scaffolds of information economics. So this is just an introduction on the economics of information in a way, no? So, as what we have discussed last time, we already have made some explanation that why this uh, topic very essential for managerial economics or business managers. Now, as we have said, that managers needs to understand the workings of the economy and of course the market. No, now in as far as market the dynamics of the market is concerned, we have studied in terms of the four on the three different types of market. The first, the two of them are the extremes, the purely competitive market and the pure monopoly market or monopolistic market. And somewhere in between is some kind of a modification of a monopolistic market that acts or behaves like a purely competitive market. That is the uh, monopolistically competitive market. Okay, so again, the reason why we are bringing this into your attention or into our lecture on the information economics, because actually, as we have said, in real world, there is no such thing as purely competitive market or there is pure monopoly, but monopolistic market is some kind of has is facing a strong say regulatory say attention from the government, and that it is only under extreme condition that the monopoly is allowed. But nonetheless, there are other types of situations where it cannot be avoided. We cannot be avoided that there would always be imperfections in the market. Imperfections, not because the players, both the buyers and the sellers, would want that to happen. They, as much as possible, they want something that is transparent between them, and not necessarily anyone is enriched at the expense of another. But really, there are situations in terms of infrastructure and informational situation that cause the market to fail or cause the market to be uh, to have some frictions or imperfections. That's why, in that sense, there are imperfections in the market. Then hence that imperfection will bring in uncertainty, and that uncertainty also will of course create, or shall I say, generate risk among the consumers and among the producers. So that this particular module will discuss how to deal with all those imperfections, how to deal with all those risk and uncertainties existing in the market. Now, in this particular lesson, we would like to bring in very important and basic knowledge on the mean and variance analysis, mean variance analysis. Now, this is very simple and straightforward that in in real sense we have to understand what we have to sort out. We have to understand what it means by mean in proper statistical sense, and what is also a variance in the statistical sense. And then, in order to confine or in order to facilitate our analysis, we would like to treat information or data from the in the market as random variable. Now, these are information or data such as sales, profit, consumers' income, price, of output and others. These are considered as random variable. So that means to say we treat everyone or this particular information in the statistical sense, and that if we look at the whole analysis of making a decision, it is actually with the element of time is there, and that element of time not only in the past but also current and also in the future, and how this particular information behaves over time, such that we pull them together to create a likelihood of occurrence of that particular, say for example, random variable, random information. So first in this particular type of analysis, the basic analysis of that is what we call as the expected value of a random variable. Okay, expected value. Now the expected value is none other but the mean value. It is expected because we are looking at it from the vantage point of time. Okay, so the formula for expected value is expected value x is equals to the probability of x1 times the value of x1 plus probability of x2 or q2 or q2 times the value of the value of x2 plus the probability of qn until you have uh, the value also of random variable xn. Okay, that is the the formula, no? So that is uh, the expected value of qi times xi. Okay, the summation of qi times xi, where I ranges from 1 to n. That is actually the statement there, no? So uh, moving forward, we have to apply our model. Now in our formula. If we look at how these things are applied, you have to consider a die rolling experiment. You see a die with an object with the six sides. Now each particular side has a probability of occurrence of equal to 1 over the number of sides, which is 6. So this 1/6 here is actually the marginal probability of one particular site, either then times the payoff of one, the payoff two, payoff three, and something like that until you reach an average of, say, for example, 3.5. Okay, an average of 3.5. So, assuming you have one, for example, as your uh, value, no? Now, the mean variance analysis provides us an information about the average value of a random variable, but it yields no information about the degree of risk. Okay? In other words, the expected value provides us information about the payoff, but it's not saying about the degree of risk, because risk is actually associated by the variance. Now consider this particular option. We will use this flipping of unbiased coin. Option one is when tossing the coin and it comes up head, you have to receive 1 peso. If it comes up tail, you have to pay 1 peso. Now, the option two is flipping a coin. If it comes up head, you will receive 10 pesos. And then if it comes up tail, you will also pay uh, 10 pesos. Now, what is the difference between the two? Okay, sorry. So the difference is this. To see this note, note that there is a 50-50 chance that the coin will land either a head or a tail. Thus, expected value of option one is, you have this one, expected value of option one is 50% times one, because there are two sides, plus one half times minus one. Why? Because you pay if it is a tail. If it is head, you receive 1 peso. What is the expected value? Zero. Okay. Option two, of expected value of option two is 50% times 10 plus one half times minus 10. The expected value is zero. Practically, using this example, even how much you are going to provide in terms of value of the random variable, the expected value could be the same. Okay, could be the same, especially if the level of occurrence is also the same. Okay, so that is the expected value. If you see, it doesn't it doesn't say about, say, degree of risk. Okay, just plainly saying the mean value. Now, the most common measure of risk, in other words, is the variance, which means in a special way on the deviation or the standard deviation, especially on the deviation of possible outcomes from the mean. That means that particular occurrence, how far is it from the mean value? Okay, the greater is the distance between the mean value and the mean value and the actual value of the random variable, the greater is the risk. Okay, so that is the logic when we are going to understand or make use of the variance. The variance of a random variable is the sum of the probabilities that different outcomes will occur times the square deviation from the mean of the random variable. No, just like this one. Formally, it is given by the sigma square, where uh, probability of uh, occurrence one, okay, times the square deviation x minus x bar, or expected value x square, okay, and then you have that also plus the same formula, only that the what is inside in the parenthesis is actually deviations from the mean until you reach the final value. Okay, so in that sense, okay, in that sense, you have a a value that is already talking about deviations from the mean. The greater, therefore, is the variance, the higher the risk. Okay. Now, and the standard deviation is just simply the square root of the variance. It is simply the square root of the variance, and that will also tell us in terms of the how many deviations that from the mean value. No, also that will also define in terms of the degree of risk also. No, now that's the variance of the previous example. You have 50%. Option one is 50% minus zero times, and then square that, and then plus 50% minus one minus zero times square, you have one. The the standard deviation. Oh, yeah, the variance. And then also for option two, you have the variance here is 100. Here now is the no. You will see if the payoff is small, the variance is small. But if the payoff is greater, the variance will be greater. That means to say, the higher the return, the greater is the risk. No? Does that follow? In variance, if we look at the variance, the higher the return, the greater is the risk. So that means it can now help you make a decision in terms of like um, buying a certain product or using a certain product. Now, using that particular concept, we have some kind of application here. Now, the application here is in terms of uncertainty and consumer behavior. So there is, remember, if there is uncertainty, there is risk, because the uncertainty condition will create now a risk of not being able to attain your target profit or sales, etc. No, or risk of not being able to get the right price that you have the actually desired now. Okay, so risk with respect to consumer behavior. We now would see how the presence of uncertainty affects economic decision in that sense. Now, before we do that, we need to understand, because we're talking about risk created by the environment of uncertainty, but the the actual dynamics in terms of decision making is actually affected by the attitude towards risk, or risk bearing attitude of the decision maker, which is the business manager. Now, there are three types of risk bearing attitude. One is the risk averse manager, the other is risk loving, and the other is risk neutral. Now, the risk averse manager, mo ni gitawag og talawan. Now, ang gusto di ani, the person refers a sure amount of peso value than dealing with like risk prospect of a particular expected value. Okay? In other words, he would rather deposit his money in the bank and it's risk free, just get the interest, how much it is, no amount of risk is needed, or risk is going to worry him. Now that is risk averse. In other words, uh, they are they don't like to deal with risk. This kind of manager. The other one is risk loving or risk taker. Now, the risk taker, individual prefers risky prospect. Karena yung kay ang iyang gitanaw is taas o expected value. Regardless of the degree of risk, with an expected value, high expected value, high risk, and high return. But here, not all types of risk can be manageable. Okay, there are times that it has high return, but the risk is so insurmountable. Now, if you hire this kind of manager, it's going to be in no time make the company go bankrupt. Delikado, no? Sugarol kaayo, no? Now, the third one is risk neutral. A manager that is risk neutral is not afraid of risk, not afraid of risk, but he has a solution for the particular risk. What the manager is going to see is in his indifference in terms of the degree of risk. His indifference would matter in terms of how he is able to strategize his approach in order to minimize, if not avoid, that risk. But this type of manager prefers higher expected value of a particular venture. Okay? Tanaw siya, high expected value, high risk, but he is able to manage the risk. Then, this is the kind of manager that is fitted for any type of enterprise, risk neutral. Okay? So, these are the three types of risk-bearing attitude. Now, before we need to do that, we need to consider taking, because what is very important here is that there are consumers that are risk averse actually. There are also consumers that are what? That are risk neutral. There are also consumers that are maybe risk taker. But very importantly, if you are dealing with consumers and that consumers or customers of yours are already like attached to a particular product, then their likelihood of shifting to another product would be difficult because they are so attached that it is very difficult for them to transfer to a new product or to change what they are doing. Okay, so this is risk averse consumer. Now, a risk averse consumer prefers a sure thing to one uncertain or prospect of an equal expected value. Example, buying a new laundry detergent. So, naanad na ka sa brand X, and here comes a known brand and advertising itself to be much better than what you are using currently. Are you going to ship? Maybe not. The likelihood would be it's very difficult to ship on an untested or untrusted brand. Okay, that's really something. That's the logic. That's the rational thinking of customers. But given the very good risk neutralizing strategy, you would just be able to successfully allow them to shift to your brand that you are selling. But how we can this just not all along. No, another is risk aversion in terms of product quality. Okay, now risk aversion in terms of product quality explains why it may be in firms' interest to become part of a chain store instead of remaining independent. Okay? The key thing to notice is that even if local store offers a better product than the national chain can remain in business if the number of out of town customers is large enough. Okay? Now, for a typical and traditional locality or municipality, vibrant but very traditional and very local type of economy, unfamiliar brand or maybe uh, uh, unfamiliar brand or even like the chances are the local restaurant, for example, local restaurant is more profitable than a national chain or a new food chain that will come into the picture. Let me cite that, exemplify that. Now, in a particular locality where, for example, if you're traveling, and then when you travel, you go to a particular place, and then looking for a restaurant where you can eat safely, okay? And you are new to the place. You are new to the place. What will you do? Are you going to trust just any other restaurant in town because it's available? You can just trust. You can just go to any other restaurant in town when you are new to the place. I don't think so. No, I don't think so because you don't exactly know which among this restaurant is going to provide you with the safe food. What will happen if you are new to the town, you are new to that place? What will you do if you are, for example, looking for a restaurant? You will try to see if there are food chain or restaurant that are bearing a more familiar brand or more familiar, more recognizable brand in the market that is also existing in other places. So, for example, for example, I'm going, I'm very new to the place. Oh, I cannot just go to any other restaurant. Okay, there is Chowking, there is McDonald's. So I would go to this place because I know that this particular, say, restaurant offers safe food to their customer. Why can't the other restaurant do that also? In the local restaurant, yeah, of course they can, but it's just that you do not know. So that means keep national food chain. Hence, why? I mean, why do you think you prefer the national food chain? Because you are new to the place. Okay, you're new to the place. What is the lesson there? Now, if Jollibee is going to enter, or McDonald's or any other nationally recognized food chain, enter into a particular locality, the first thing that they will consider is is that is that place a municipality or city frequented frequented by people from other places, or in other words, there is constant towing and froing of people coming in and out of the not people not necessarily resident in that area. Is that place a a place where there is constant towing and froing of people? If the answer is yes, then mabuhi ang Jollibee or McDonald's diha. Why? Because people who are new to the place will always prefer a recognized and a nationally accredited brands of food chain rather than the new restaurant. And that is just rational thinking. Now, in other words, you are just trying to avert the risk of the customer, providing a sure thing. Hindi ka LBM aning a restaurant because you know that restaurant is actually accredited nationally. Okay? So that is very very common, no? Now even in agriculture, in agribusiness, no, in agribusiness, we have tried this in another, okay, for example, in another in another situation where we are addressing, okay, we are, for example, promoting in a particular association, for example, in Ormoc, Vegetable Farmers Association, we are promoting a new technology and a new crop. Okay, remember, new technology and a new crop. So it's doubly uh, risk taking for them uh, to change or maybe even try planting the crop. So, but it is really very essential. We have seen this as very effective in changing the way they practice vegetable farming, and we are very sure that it can increase their income. But how to convince them? It was really an uphill climb. Okay, first we meet the farmers. Okay, so we know already that these farmers are in that association are planting the common vegetables. They have cabbage, they have uh, sweet pepper, they have chili pepper, they have eggplant, they have pichay, they have Chinese cabbage, snap beans, and even spring onions. These are the kind of crops that they're planting. Cucumber, they're planting that, and then that's the traditional crop, and they have been used to that, and They're feeling already comfortable with planting that, and they don't see they already learn how to manage the risk with they're facing when it comes to planting this crop. But the thing is, they are locked into the uncertainties of the season, and of course, they are locked into the 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 range at which this crop can provide them the revenue. And of course, the market also, there's a huge opportunity in the market which they're not able to tap or take advantage because they're just planting that particular crop. So we introduce this particular crop. What is this particular crop? It is a salad bell pepper. A salad bell pepper. The sweet pepper that they're planting, or even the chili pepper, the most favorable price that they are getting would only range between maybe 60 to maybe 80 farm gate price, 60 to 80, or maybe 100 per kilo. But this bell pepper, which is highly demanded in hotels and other specialty store, it can command a price between 350 to 480. So it's really very attractive. So in other words, we promote this to them and then ask them to see the possibility of trying planting this. So what happens? We meet them and then explain to them the situation, and then what they are currently planting and what they are about to really also try from us. And then we ask them, uh, these are the associated costs, and I ask them, are you going to plant? Uh, they told us, tell us more about its costs. Okay, we'll tell you about the cost. How much is the seed of that particular crop, the bell pepper? The seed will cost you 11 pesos per seed. That grain of seed, one grain of seed, it will cost you it's worth 11 pesos. Seeds pa lang, wapay fertilizer. They said, what? That's too expensive. No way. We're going to plant that. Okay, but this is going to really just uh, catapult your income to the highest level if you plant this. Even that is too risky. If we have if we have if we are plant if we plant, for example, 1,000 of that seed is already 11,000, and we are not even sure whether it will germinate or not. So that's their question, logical, which is logical and valid. We, from the technology provider and the marketing, who knows the dynamics of the market, will say, how can this farmer be convinced? They are very risk averse. Of course, from their experience, they are risk averse. So the technique there is you have to deal, you have to minimize, you have to allow them to feel that the risk could be minimal. How did we do that? Okay, we told them because it's really very important for them to see us to believe. That is what they are. I know that to experience is to believe, something like that. But how are they going to experience if they're not going to try planting? So in order to convince them and try and make a trial planting, okay, we told them, okay, this is the deal. You plant this particular crop, we will guide you all along until harvest, and this is the game, or this is the deal. If you fail, I would not be able to recover your investment. We will pay everything, your cost of input, except your labor. We will pay. No, we will pay. Cost of input, we will pay everything for you to recover. If you are not going to, if you become profitable and very successful, we're not going to get anything. It's all yours. They were very silent and then asked again, are you going to plant? Can I see hands of those who are interested to plant? Practically all of them raised their hands that they are interested to plant. So the orientation now has changed from being risk averse to relatively risk neutral or risk taker. Why? Because we provide a risk neutralizing strategy. And then, to make a long story short, they were able to plant and even regain, even made a boom in terms of their harvest. And then the next series of planting, and they are still even planting this time. You know what? They were confronted with, I know they were confronted with bacterial wealth problem, which will just uh, kill the standing plants. Even bearing plants can die of that bacterial well. Then the solution was uh, seedling grafting. We graft because that was the solution made by the Department of Horticulture. Graft the hybrid pepper with a native pepper, and goodbye bacterial wealth. There will be no more bacterial wealth. The survival is 90 to 100%. Unlike before, although they're still profiting, the survival is between 60 to 70 only. So, daghan kayo mamatay. So, they were convinced nga, importante na engrafting. Okay. Now, we teach them how to graft. And they said, kamo na lang graft sir, palit me. Okay, we will graft for you, but you have to pay higher price. How much? When it is a seed, it's going to be 11 pesos. But now it is grafted, we count everything, we cost everything, and it turns out to be, it's 25 pesos per seedling. Then we asked them, are you going to plant? They said, yes. No more. No more. They paid 25 pesos per seedling. Because why? 25 pesos is not even one-tenth of the harvest value of one particular plant. Because one particular plant will harvest 9 times until the last harvesting. And then 9 times, can you imagine 9 times? And each harvest, you can harvest as much as 2 to 3 kilos. Okay. So, we will just say 2 kilos. That's already 800 pesos times 9 per plant. So you can see per plant. Okay? Per plant. You have about 4,000 pesos per plant. Or maybe 3,000 per plant. You plant in one plot, for example. You plant, for example, 300 hills or 350, and then minus 50, 300 survive. 300 times, wow, 4,000. How much is that? That's the amount of money that they are getting in one 300 square meter plot. Okay? Now you get the price to maybe 150 or maybe 200 per kilo, which is very low already. They can still get as much as 250 to 300,000 per plot of like 200 square meters. Now, can you imagine? Because the risks were avoided, they were convinced to plant. So the thing is, risk averse, strategize how to avoid or even manage that risk. Okay, individual who choose to buy insurance, of course, if you are really a new driver and you have a new car, it's really very upsetting. Magarasa ng imong sakyanan, no? Grabe kaayo. Murag heaven and earth, moabot ang imong pangagho, no? Because it's really expensive. And you do not want your new car to be dented or to be scratched by anybody who is very careless enough. That's why we buy insurance in order to avert your, in order to avert or in order to uh, manage your risk by insurance. New car, maybe 30,000 for 1 year, or maybe less, no, depending on the value of your car. So maybe 20, 10 or 15,000 per year. You still pay. Why? You pay for your worry to get away. Because when there is something that will happen, the insurance will pay for you. So okay lang. But then you pay because that's why they make business, this insurance company, because the business in managing the risk of people. Okay. Now, consumer search, for example, again, no, consumer search. Suppose a consumer, consumer do not know the prices charged by different stores for some homogeneous commodity. Okay, and then suppose there are numerous stores charging different price for the same product. Consumer would like to purchase the product for some store charging the lowest price. Rational thinking. That's normally the orientation of the customer. Daghan man ni, asa man kay barato ani, asa man kay maayo ani, something like that. Okay? So in that sense, what will you do? You search. Okay, you search. And then when you search, you kind of see if uh, which of these could somehow be offering the the lowest price. But how will you judge that that is the lowest price? That price is preferable to you. Well, firstly, you are a customer, you are a buyer, you have an idea in terms of how much are you willing to pay. Not not willing to pay. What is cheap to you in terms? What is cheap to you in terms of price? Now that cut off price, imaginary cut off price that you have in your mind is actually what we call as reservation price. You have reserved it in your mind. You search, and then human, you see, oh, this price is above my reservation price. Then human, you will say, oh, search for another one. Oh, this just matches my reservation price. So okay, I think we have to buy this because okay na, it matches with my reservation price. So that is the logic, no? When we make a consumer, or can I say information search. Looking at this graph, you see the customer or the consumer has what we call as the expected benefit and cost comparison. This is your expected benefit, and this is your uh, cost. The expected benefit could be in terms of quality, in terms of like for example quality and other characteristic or convenience, etc. No, so that could be in, and of course ang presyo sulit, the price also. And then you have given the expected benefit, so you have, that is also the amount, the cost it will involve to make a search. Now you have a reservation price here, that when it is at when it cross your reservation price is just almost equal to your expected benefit, then all other price above it will not be considered, because what, that is already outside of your reservation price. Okay, I'll stop. This is the price I want because it just fits the expected benefit, and this is the price that I have in mind also. Okay, so what is this letter C? C is information search cost, searching a catalog, making phone calls, etc. In other words, these are the costs associated of searching for a particular product. Expected benefit, well, of course, as I have told you, these are the expected value of uh, particular using a particular product. Now, what is the decision rule? What is this particular intersection point? That particular intersection point is the consumer search rule. Okay, where the search where we have to search for a better price when the price charged by the firm is above the reservation price. Ang price lapas na sa imong reservation price, then search for a better price. Kung taas pa na siya. And stop searching when a price is below the reservation price. Okay, if it is below sa imong reservation price, below or even equal to your reservation price, go buy. Pero ang imong reservation price is still uh, taas pa, search pa kay para ma-maximize nimo ang benefit. Okay? So that is the consumer rule using that graph. Now, that is the situation. Now, before we go to that particular, we leave that particular topic on uh, managerial decision with risk-free consumers. Okay, consumers, and the next thing is we consider the risk-averse firm. Okay, now for consumer, I have a personal experience related to that. We were in Davao at the time, and then during that time, I have my companion from other agencies from Manila and other places, and we took this particular mini truck or pickup from Davao City, and we are traveling to Surigao City or Butuan Road. Then Before leaving Davao, one of my companions, or yeah, a part of the teammates, said that we will buy durian in here. Said, how much per kilo? Wow, it's 75. It's very expensive. That was quite a while ago. Okay, maybe we can go to Panabo because Panabo can be a lot cheaper than here. Okay, so we drive along the way, and to make a long story short, arrive in Panabo in about an hour or a little over 1 hour. Then, arriving there, we look at the fruit stand and saw that durian is sold at 65 pesos per kilo. Wow, 65. You see, Panabo, I think it's much cheaper in Tagum. Okay, much cheaper in Tagum. So we drove again another hour going to Tagum, Tagum City. Then upon arriving in Tagum City, okay, it was still maybe 10 o'clock. So we saw that the the durian was sold at 60 pesos per kilo. Wow, my teammates said in Davao 75, in Panabo it's 65. I mean, yeah, 65, and in Tagum it's 60. I think at the farm gate in Moncayo is a lot cheaper. So, guys, be patient. We'll proceed our way, and upon reaching Moncayo, we will eat our durian there. Okay. So we patiently drove another maybe 45 minutes and reached Moncayo in due time, and saw that the durian sold in Moncayo was 75. 75 per kilo. Alangan, mabalik pag-drive pa yun sa Tagum. And then, it's already Moncayo, almost the last area for, dynamic market outside of Davao City. So, we decided, had we bought the durian in Tagum, we could have enjoyed it at 60 pesos. But now, we are back with 75 pesos. So, what happened? Uh, do not think about it. Let's eat our durian here, 75 pesos per kilo. So it was really a disaster. Lesson, consumer search. We were not really agreeing in terms of what should be our reservation price. No, we we just allowed it to, based on intuition. So in that case, we are risk averse, but we got a taste or a dose of our own medicine. We are back with the more expensive price of that fruit. It's really an experience. It was really an experience. Now we proceed with uncertainty and the firm. Kanina, it's uncertainty and the consumer, risk averse consumer. The uncertainty creates risk. We were dealing with risk averse consumer. Now, previously we have discussed how uncertainty affects consumer behavior. Okay, and thus creating a direct impact on the nature of demand. Now, in this, say for example, in this particular in this particular situation, we would like to discuss on uncertainty also affects managers' input and output decision. Okay, therefore, it is important to note that the impact on uncertainty to highlight its direct influence on managerial decision. Okay, that means what is the impact of uncertainty on managerial decision? Remember that managers also of the firm are buyers. Buyers of what? Input. They buy input and convert that into output. They are not just decision makers of output, but decision makers in terms of buying inputs like labor, recruitment of people. These are inputs. Okay? So let's take, for example, uncertainty of the firm, risk aversion of managers. Now, there are managers who are risk averse, may prefer a risky project, may prefer a risky project with an expected value of 1 million and a certain return. A risk averse manager will prefer a sure thing. Dili musugal ang risk averse manager. Bahala na gamay rag income basta why risk. Mao na risk averse manager. Okay? A risk neutral manager is interested in maximizing expected profit or benefit. The variance of profit does not affect risk neutral manager. Instead, tanawon sa risk neutral manager, okay, na may risk, pero kaya na itong malabanan ng risk. Kaya na to na ma-manage. I think we can even avoid it. But we look at this expected value, napakataas ang return. Pag we are able to successfully override the risk, we will we will settle with a very high expected value. And that's good for the company. What about risk taker or risk lover manager? Sees that the project must offer high return. High return ng iya, bahala ng high risk. High risk, high return. Go. Delikado if this is the manager that you're having. Because it will be in no time, the firm will go bankrupt. Because sugarol man, no? He will always bet for higher expected value and will not be thinking about the risk. He loves risk, but unfortunately, not all risk can be managed. Okay? So that you will end up losing most of the time. That is the risk lover, no, risk manager. Now, whenever a manager faces a decision to choose among risky projects, it is important to carefully evaluate the risk and the expected value, okay, of the project. Then to document this evaluation. Okay? If you are faced with different options with different levels of risk, document and evaluate this particular situation. The reason is simple. Risky project prospects may result in bad outcomes. Yeah, of course, risky. A manager is less likely to get fired over a bad outcome if she or he provides evidence that, based on the information available at the time the decision was made, the decision was sound. Okay? So the challenge now is for the manager to come up with a strategy on how to minimize risk. Not avoid totally, but minimize its impact. Because a risk-averse manager, talawa na, di na gustong risk. But a risk lover manager or risk taker manager, sobra ra pud ka isog. Sugarol gyud kaayo. Wala na, why pakialam siya sa risk. Basta high return. Sugarol yun. But a risk neutral manager, he looks at the high expected value and the risk there is accordingly. But the thing is, he finds a way how to avoid or how to manage or if not avoid the risk basing on available information so that it will convince the stockholder. Okay? It will convince the stockholder. So that means to say, very importantly, if the manager if the manager is going to make a decision and facing risky prospects, he should not be intimidated by the risk. The thing is, you see and evaluate what is the expected value and the level of risk. Then decide on the favorable expected value with manageable risk. In other words, you have to have a strategy how to avoid if not manage the risk. So that at the end of the day, you still are able to generate high return, much higher than the sure thing. In other words, the risk-free option. So that is always the attitude. Now, if that is the orientation, if that is the manager that you are looking, you are that manager. You know how to minimize, if not avoid risk. Pero kung talawan ka, you don't deserve to become a manager. O sugarol na po ka, more fully, you don't also deserve to be a manager. A risk-neutral manager is what is preferred in an enterprise or a company or as a manager of a particular business. That should be the orientation. Now, if you look at the difference between this risk orientation, we will have a clear example, and that will be for next meeting. No? That will be for next meeting, and we will discuss that more fully in terms of actual how to document our decision and come up with this particular, appreciate this better in terms of how we understand the theory. No? So for now, we have to uh, consider that what have we accomplished so far? We have discussed in terms of the the imperfections of the market will create uncertainty. Okay, imperfections of the market will create uncertainty. Now, uncertainty will also generate various level of risk. Okay, now as managers, you should not be intimidated by risk, but you should be able to strategize your trajectory, your entry, in order to minimize, if not manage the risk, or if not avoid the risk, and eventually get a higher return for investment. Okay, so that should be the whether you are a consumer and whether you are a what you are uh, a manager of a particular firm, a producer. No, that should be the situation. Risk averse consumer and risk averse manager. Document and make a decision with respect to various risk bearing orientation. So, with that note, we say uh, we end this particular lecture, and I'll see you in our next session. Okay, so thank you and have a good day.